This just happens to be the same field where we found the Abib barley last year. If you look, can you pause it? Go back just a smidgen. And pause it there. So the white stripes last year was all wild barley, all of that up there. And right about where I'm sitting, that little blue person right there is, and then towards the road is where the Omer was taken last year. I had been saying since the first time I went out, when I was sitting where I'm sitting, I could tell there was barley there, but there was nothing else, nothing else. And I had already said, if we had that field this year, we'd have an Omer early. But there was nothing but brown dirt at that time. So what was planted was from me to the far end, and it stayed pretty much naked the whole time. And we had this little bit where I'm sitting. And then after that last storm we had, Randy and I had been out looking at other locations, and we came back by there, and I could see that the field then behind me, if you want to let it fly, we'll show them what we're talking about. The section behind, as it turns here, I think it turns. So you can see all that barley now that has grown in behind that area. That filled in 1 week. That was not there before. So what had happened when Randy and I come by there is I said, oh my goodness, that has filled in with barley. We have to stop and check it. There might be a beeb there. Now that right there is the whole area. There you go. From that green line right there, all the way forward, that is the whole area. Yep. And back up and back up. So we got out of the car and we went over there, and sure enough, that same area on this property was much further advanced than the rest of it. And we were able then to say that there was enough barley to begin the year. But now we have some pictures. We've gone back today and we've taken the drone, and Randy's got some really good pictures and videos we can look at that shows exactly that area I'm sitting in, how far actually gone it is, because it's a lot of it is, well, you can only put your fingers on it, it's going to shatter. And a huge percentage of it is that way. We'll just go with Randy's photos and we'll look at them as they play here on the computer. So that's me back up there in the foreground. The really dark brown, and then just in front of me as well, you just see a rusty edge right there that I'm sitting in compared to the rest of the field. And that is all barley that the stalk is dying. And I would say 80% of the barley in that is tan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. No, and there's some of it already in there that is indivisible by the fingernail. It's leathery, it's hard, and you cannot cut it with your fingernail. And that's past where we want it.
That was already mature. So I had some higher stuff. I don't know if it just popped up and come out and see. It was taller, but still, you took the grains that were even inside of it, laid them down, or half the height of the others. You're grabbing the same seed as you're opening them up, doing your dose. They're all there.
They're all there. They're all there. Right. And what Randy's talking about is the first flush. I've explained this a lot of times. After 2 days of soaking rain, the grains are born. And this year, as it happened, after those grains were born, we didn't get a rain for a long time after that. So those grains began to mature very rapidly. Then we had the big storm, and the green that you see has come up since then. In some sections of the field, the first flush is buried in the taller second flush. But Elohim has reserved an area of that field where the new growth has not superseded the original flush. And that's right there where I'm sitting. I'm going to show them with the area right there where I'm sitting in front. And then also to the left towards the road, there's plenty of that first flush of barley that should be harvested by now.
All this time, you're actually sitting right there on the line. This is where to the left of that area.
Right. Mm-hmm. Can you pull the screen? Can you enlarge the screen that you have with that? That's all behind. That's all the newer stuff. That's still the newer stuff. Can you do the one up there where I was sitting? Oh, look at that. See, okay, there you go. Now you can really see, if you can zoom in on some of that in front of me, you can really see how dark those kernels are getting to be in there. Okay, that's good right there, right there. To show them how that tan area is not really dirt. That's barley. It's just, I don't know how it's standing there. I don't know how it's standing there, but it's standing there. Yeah, it really does. Yeah. Okay, guys, that's really what we had to show you, that the barley is beginning to shatter. Some of that's beginning to shatter, probably about 5%. That number is going to increase because the ones that we had, our plan was to use that slow-mo, and when Randy flipped it to put some sound effects with it, and we couldn't get the slow-mo to work.
A cymbal clash.
Something. We were going to play with it, but we couldn't get the slow-mo to coordinate with my with me and Randy on my phone with me and Randy. But it's enough that there's enough out there that's not shattered, but you could flip and it would shatter, that it's really, really, really going to go fast. It's really going to go fast. Hey, Joe. Yeah.
Yeah. So today is Tuesday, no, Wednesday. Today's Wednesday.
Yeah.
You got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You got 4 more days. What's the weather for the next 4 days?
I have to look. I think it's going to be up to 85 some days. So it says Thursday was 69, Friday 75, Saturday's 81, Sunday is 82.
So, okay. So looking at this picture in front of you, the field that we were in last year was about I don't know, 50 feet in front of you, in between
Yeah.
you and Randy, where Randy's standing there.
Actually,
The-
I'm on the margin of that, Joe. Actually, that was
Yeah.
a little bit was part of that field last year.
Yeah. The what's in the field in front of you there? What have they got there? What crop is that?
Nothing. They plowed it under. I had thought they had planted something, but I don't think they did. What they're growing, what's growing right there is that is arugula that's in bloom, and the rest of it is still looks like grass. It's a second flush
Okay.
that came with the storm, and I don't know if that will ever make a head or not.
So where you're sitting is wild.
Yeah.
And where the brown is right around you on your left, right, and
It's
front
wild. Mhm.
is wild, and that's already shattering. And behind you is the green, which is still in the dough stage.
There was everything. We saw, are you the host or am I? No, it's okay. Just show them the side by the trees. The side by the trees, that darker green strip by the dead trees, all of that was coming out of the boot and flowering. And then as you
Okay.
move towards there, from there towards the center of that area behind me, there was some with like milk and soft dough, and it was a real mixed bag. And then there was the other stuff down below it, below the new growth that was ready to shatter.
Okay. So when Boaz and Ruth went out to harvest the barley, they did it for 7 weeks, right? They were harvesting, the harvest season is for 7 weeks.
Oh, I don't
Did
know how long.
Boaz,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, did Boaz own 1,000 fields to keep going for 7 weeks, or did he own 1 or 2 or 4 fields?
Well, it said he
And
owned a shared field. He had a shared field with another guy.
but they kept going back into the same fields over those 7 weeks,
Absolutely.
right? So
Absolutely.
where you're sitting there now could be harvested on wave sheaf day in 4 days' time. Then the week after that, you can come back and harvest some more of this in the other area. And the week after that, the stuff along the fence. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
What you're hearing me say is if you plant tomatoes, they're not already on the first day. You have to go back and keep picking them as they get ripe. And the same is true of the barley.
Precisely. Thank you. Say that again, because a lot of people expect it all to be ready on day
No,
one.
no,
So
no.
do we have to have, sorry,
No, go ahead.
do we have to have every field in Israel ripe by wave sheaf day?
No, we don't. There is one Omer, the Omer, capital T, capital O, who is Yeshua. And that's what we start the year with. It was the scriptures
Okay,
plainly
but
show us that
let's
go
let's
ahead.
for sake of argument, because there's other groups that don't believe in Yeshua, let's leave Yeshua out. Just let's talk about the barley. Is all the fields in every part of Israel, do they have to be ripe today?
No, no, because Deuteronomy 16:2 this is actually a chiasm that says when you number your days, when you put the sickle to the ground, no, 7 Sabbaths you shall number when you put the sickle to the grain. It's a chiasm. It says it one way on one end, it reverses it on the other end, and in the middle it says when you put the sickle to the grain. So the chiasm is pointing to putting the sickle to the grain, then you start your harvest, then you count your sevens.
Okay, so we've all been part of the Karaite a group where we first learned and came to understand this. And I greatly appreciate them, and I thank them so much for educating me and showing me so much about the Bible that I never knew before. There's what we were calling a takanot and ma'asim last year, and it's still the same this year. There were certain groups last year that wanted to call not just an Adar Bet, but an Adar Gimel.
Yes.
Because they had no barley in the area where they were looking, and the barley was still in the boot where they were looking last year.
Right.
Is that thinking that you have to have barley everywhere? Is there any scriptures to back that up?
There's not. There's not. In fact, when you go to Chronicles and it talks about Hezekiah, when he rededicated the temple, it says when they rededicated the temple and they started bringing in the heaps, they used the word heaps, but behind that is the word Omer. It says when they rededicated the temple and they began to lay the foundation of the temple with the heaps, it says they started in the fourth month, and I think they went to the 7th month, Joe. It says that in the scripture. And when you open up this word heaps in King James, it's literally talking about an Omer quantity. I think
Okay.
it's Chronicles 29 or 30.
But that if they're doing that in the 4th to the 7th month, there was an Omer quantity of wheat, not barley.
No,
Right.
because it started, they were doing the rededication. They had missed the 1st month because the temple was not clean. They kept a 2nd month Passover. And that's when they started bringing in the grains, and it was all of the grains. And they went through, in other words, they kept laying those omers, they kept bringing them. Chronicles 31, 2nd Chronicles 31. Okay, give me King James. All right. Moreover, he commanded that the people that dwelt in Jerusalem to give portions to priests and Levites, that they might be encouraged the law of the Lord. And as soon as the command came abroad, the children of Israel brought in the abundance of the first fruits of corn, barley, and wheat. Okay. And the 3rd month, they began to lay the foundation of the heaps, the omers, and finished them in the 7th month.
Okay.
Okay, so they began in the 3rd month. The 3rd month, they had done the Passover as a 2nd month because they were not all the way finished with cleansing of the temple. I believe, if I remember correctly, they didn't finish the porch until the 16th day. So they kept a 2nd month Passover. Now we're already looking at the 3rd month, and they're beginning to lay the foundation of the temple of heaps, and they finished it in the 3rd month. And when Hezekiah saw the princes came and saw the heaps, they blessed the Lord and his people. And Hezekiah questioned the priests and the Levites concerning the heaps. And the chief priests answered and say, the people begin to bring the offerings into the house of the Lord, and we have enough to eat and have plenty left, for the Lord hath blessed this people, and that which is left is this great store.
Okay. Another question.
Mm-hmm.
It has to do with the authority to go and search for the barley. Some people say because you're a woman, you don't count. Because Randy doesn't live in Israel, he doesn't count. He's not Jewish. Who is a reliable witness?
Anybody with a good character. Anybody with a good character.
Okay, so
you want to? I mean, can I talk about Yeshua? Can we talk about that, or that's not that we can't? We only have to talk about the first covenant writings.
Well, you used Deborah before as a witness. I think it was Deborah.
Deborah was she was a judge of Israel.
Yeah. So
Okay.
what I'm trying to do is to dispel this notion that because you're a woman, you don't count.
Well, Deborah judged Israel. She judged Israel by the law. She sat under a date tree. She was a married woman, and she judged Israel just like the male judges by the written Torah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And when Yeshua raised from the dead, the first person he called as a witness, he said, Martha, go tell my disciples and Peter, I am risen. And Joe, what day did Mashiach raise? Wave sheaf.
Wave sheaf day. I know.
Okay.
I know. Yes, we both know that. And yes. So again, a lot of people are going to dismiss that because they don't believe in it. So I'm trying to focus on them because that's
Right.
where the objection is going to come from. So you, not Randy. Randy's been following you for a long time. He just happened to come over there this year, which was awesome. But you're looking at the barley, just this week, right?
Oh no, I've been looking at the barley since the end of the. This has been the longest inspection season of my life. I'm
What? Yeah. So
serious.
you started looking at the barley from the moment it popped out of the ground.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You've been witnessing the barley from that time, and
Yes,
you've been watching it grow. Now, this hasn't
yes.
been an easy year.
No.
So now there's another thing that you do that's unique. You also witness the wheat at Shavuot.
Hmm.
No one else does that.
Hmm. I also
You also,
witnessed. Go
the
ahead.
grapes.
Hmm.
Yeah, the grapes, the
Hmm.
pomegranates, the dates, the olives.
Hmm.
And I started recognizing what you were saying back in 2016 when we first split off with the Karaites. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done. But what I've seen was every year that we did this, every year, the wheat and the grapes
Everything falls
and
in
the
line when it's supposed to.
falls right in line. And it's such an amazing thing.
And that's why it
So,
is so stressful for me. I mean, it's like I have to speak and say what God is doing on the land.
yeah.
And it
So
is a very
you're not
stressful thing.
forecasting, you're just witnessing.
No, no, I can't forecast what he's going to do. Who can forecast what Elohim is going to do? They're
Yeah.
crazy if they think they can forecast him.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry,
again,
but they are.
the thing, and I'm sitting here because the sun's just coming up where I'm at, so it's awesome. I love the sun in the morning. So the thing that's amazing is that we have to go by faith. Yes, it's the month of green ears. It's not the month of ripe barley, right? It's not, because you can't harvest or you can't handle this barley once it starts to shatter. You won't get it into the barn.
Yes.
And too much of the fields will be shattered by the time April, what, 7th or 8th comes along.
Right, right. If I owned this field right now, even though there would be a little bit of loss in that newer flush, where that Omer is, there's not enough of a loss in the newer flush that I would want the first fruits to fall.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've gone by faith last year. I remember last year was very stressful. The barley was just there. The wheat
It
was
was
just
stressful, but I
there.
had stuff to watch. I didn't have stuff to watch this year to the last minute.
Yeah. And last year the grapes came in right on time. And these things, you have to go by faith in all of this. So you have to learn to trust what you're seeing and to get ready for it. A lot of people were, I was expecting an Adar bet this year. A lot of people were planning on an Adar bet this year. And then they got mad because there was no Adar bet and they had to get ready.
Mhm.
It's called faith.
Mhm.
It's called faith.
It's
So,
also called the wise virgin. We have to be prepared. He doesn't tell us, he doesn't say, okay, you guys, you're going to get 13 months this year. I don't want you to worry about it. That's not what he asks us to do. I mean, the whole thing that we're required to do is always be watching. If you start with the wilderness travel, how they had to move when the fire and the cloud, and you go to the night that Yeshua gave his life, and he was in the garden and he was telling his disciples, can't you watch with me? Can't you
mhm.
wait and watch with me? The whole thing about our walk is we're to have our eyes on the Elohim and not to move and not to do anything ahead of him, but with him.
Yeah. Can you, there's another group, and I don't want to mention any of the groups by name, but there's another group that goes by storks and fig leaves and grape leaves and I don't know, all kinds of other stuff. Can you speak to those? Are there storks there now?
Yeah, there's lots of storks. The anemones are past, the red poppies are past. Um, Honestly, Joe, I peripherally, I don't keep track of those things because I don't see in scripture in the order of creation where Elohim gave them any authority to point to anything.
Yeah.
Elohim, just like we have a Passover Seder, okay, there is Siddur to the book of Genesis. He gave us an order so that we understand things.
Yeah.
And he gave us an order to understand the calendar by. Okay. Fourth month, the sun, moon, and stars, everybody wants to hang their hat on that. But Yeshua said, man was not created for the Sabbath. Sabbath was created for man. Man was the sixth day. Sabbath was the seventh day. John 1, Colossians 1 talks about Yeshua being the light and the life in man on the first day, and that by him, everything was created that was created. That's how we know the order. That same book tells us in Genesis 2, 3 through 5, that Elohim put the seed in the earth in the day he created the earth. The seed, Yeshua's principal location, is preeminent. And so the seed existed in the day that Elohim created the heaven and the earth. Okay. The preeminent thing that we're to be following then in his Siddur of creation is the seed. Has nothing to do with storks, has nothing to do with equinox, stars, nothing. It's he says, Yeshua himself says in Mark, the kingdom of heaven is as a man who plants a field. And he comes and goes every day to see what the field is doing, and he knows not how, because the seed brings forth fruit of itself. The earth brings forth fruit of itself. The earth. So Elohim tells us in creation that the seed gets the ball rolling for his year. So how then do I plug storks in there? How then do I plug poppies in there? I'll tell you, the earth brings forth poppies. I know that, but it doesn't start the year. We need a wave sheaf of barley.
There's other questions about the flax. Do you have flax on the ground?
Absolutely, we have flax. Absolutely. Everything showed up at the absolute midnight hour this year.
Okay.
Okay. We had a sprinkling last week. I was beginning to see flax. Randy asked me about the flax yesterday. I said, yeah, go to this hill. It'll probably be out by now. I didn't have time. I've been, with everything, with the barley and then making the meal. And he went out, and yeah, there was flax on that hill where I took you guys.
Okay.
And he took pictures.
There's one other thing. It's, again, I want to go back to this thing. It's the month of green ears. The month of green ears. And we've changed that into the month of Aviv. We've now changed them
behind the word green ears. The word Aviv is behind that.
Yeah, and now we've changed that meaning from Aviv into ripe barley.
Yes.
Which is shattering barley. Yes. And now we've also changed that meaning into it's got to be ready and ripe by the 12th month. Not we, but generally a lot of people have taken to be ripe and ready by the start of the 12th month. Is there any scripture that says it has to be ready by the 12th month?
There's absolutely no scripture that says it has to be ready by the 12th month.
Or by the end of the 12th month?
Nothing.
When does it have to be ready by?
Wave sheaf day. Wave sheaf day. That's something that I had to adjust for me this year because I was unsure. Even though I understood the order of creation, I had not applied it to the calendar. And what was one of my wrestlings this year with Elohim. Y'all don't know this, but I'm like Jacob. We start wrestling at the end of November. And I'm like the woman in the New Testament that's begging for the king for justice. When are you going to give me the barley? And I pester him. And I don't talk to a lot of other people besides him until Abib's decided. Okay. And so one of the things I was wrestling with was the fact that I didn't think we were going to have a barley in the time that I needed it to be a bee. And it wasn't. I left that field, and he had shut his mouth to me the whole time. And I left that field, and I'm saying, what do you want me to do? There is no barley, and this is my cutoff date. And I said, and he said one thing. It's about the seed. That's what he said. And it's about the seed. And then I knew what he was talking about. I knew he was talking about Genesis 2:3-5, that when man fell, the rain fell, and there was a man to open the earth. And the need to begin to bring bread from the earth happened in that moment. And that seed had been planted since before the man, because when he says in Genesis 2:3-5, he said, but there was not a man to till the earth, and it had not rained yet. So we don't let that seed, that preeminent position, we don't let that seed fall to earth.
Yeah. Okay. So my final question, I have to get going. I have services starting here in an hour. The final thing is, both you and Randy are testifying that we have an Omer, which is about, roughly 2 liters to a big fruit basket full of barley that will be waivable in 4 days' time. You have that now.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Some of it, of course, we're going to roast all of it. We're going to roast all of it. We would roast all of it. I don't mean we are going to. We would roast all of it, but some of it's so hard that for moisture purposes, there would be no reason to roast it.
Yeah.
It's that hard. It's leathery.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you both for what you're doing and helping to clarify this with all of us, for all of us. Sorry I couldn't be there this year, but thank you.